Do you think people showing you compassion could help kind of open that up in you, and you want to show the same compassion that you've seen?
It's a good question. We don't know the answer to it. There are some people, there is some research that suggests, yes, if you see something like compassion, it'll cause you to experience the same thing. But hasn't really been well tested. What I see as the main root, first, people have to have a sense of self-worth and efficacy. I have to believe that I am a worthwhile person. Hopefully that's what my parents gave me, and it's not a problem. But if it isn't, my parents didn't give that to me, then I need to cultivate a feeling of self-worth. Also efficacy, that I can do something at least about somebody, at least about the people I live with, perhaps about people in the wider world. And it depends on their talents what they can do, but they're not passive recipients, they're active agents in the world. Then I think that the goal, if people have feelings of self-worth and efficacy, the inroad that I would advocate is cultivating this cognitive-based compassion, where you start to realize why it's important, why the welfare of others impacts on yours, and why it's important that a life of service, maybe not full-time, but at least part-time, service to others is the key to well-being. When you are 10 to 15, you're thinking about what's the purpose of life? What's it mean? How should I lead my life? Usually people don't think about that again until they're in their 50s or 60s. So this is the time when sort of you can have a decisive influence when people consider, what should I do with my life? Do I want to do what my parents did? Do I want to do it differently? Do I want to do it the way my friends did it? Do I want to do it the way celebrities do it? How do I want to lead my life?
Also, in my experience, you can discover compassion when something happens in the world. When there was a tsunami in Japan, I felt I really wanted to show my support, so I started a project that made me discover compassion. I could begin to have more compassion towards my parents. Do you know of other ways to develop compassion?
Well, I think there are a variety of ways, and it's different. When you go to the gymnasium, you may use the treadmill, you may use the exercise bicycle. People tend to specialize about what tools they want to use for their muscles. I think people will probably specialize in what tools they want to use to educate their compassion. And for some it will be seeing good acts, and for some it will be learning about opportunities, a more cognitive route. I was advocating at one point the establishment of compassion gymnasiums, where you, instead of exercising your muscles, you exercise your brain to develop compassion. And in the compassion gymnasium, one of the rooms would be the good news, where all you see are the wonderful things that are happening every day, and they are. And that would cause you to rejoice in the goodness that's in human beings, rather than to despair about the cruelty. The important thing you pointed out was that when you took one compassionate act, it broadened their perspective. The issue is, how do we get people to the point that you are already at, where you took one act? Because the majority of people did not act for the tsunami. Why did you? What was it in you that caused you to act? If I knew the answer to that, I would better know how to cultivate, get compassion to that point in others. But you already have part of that answer if you examine yourself. So why did you do that? Would you have done that a year earlier? Did it take the tsunami? Would you have done that for something lesser? How do you respond when you see a homeless person asking for money in the street? In some ways, the world that you've come into is better than the world I came into. The world I came into was the Cold War. Actually, it was World War II. I was 8 when that began and 13 when it ended. And then that got followed by the Cold War and the Cuban crisis and the threat of the destruction of all human beings on the planet from nuclear weapons, which still exists, but not so severe. But now you've come into a world where opportunities are more limited, pollution is occurring, the planet is teetering. Actions to enlarge compassionate concerns are much more urgent. In that sense, that's a gift. You can think of that as you've come into a world that's much more demanding of compassion, and you just need to make use of that gift and make it part of your life.